Welcome to the conversation. It's Living Entrepreneurship but Salty. I feel so sad today because again my friend was slapped. This is the second time I see my friend being slapped.
Oh, Macron.
Yes.
But guys, meanwhile, I like the way the media, the other side, was trying to cover the story, and they said it was just a moment of a lovely couple, a lovely couple trying to, enjoy their moment. There was nothing like slap. I love the way PR does sometimes do their
If
work.
you're
We
good
do
at
interesting
reading
things.
body language, you could see everything was wrong about
But this is it.
the scenario.
You've seen how the Russian media is actually making this a big deal. It's like they're enjoying this. They're enjoying the slapping.
Of course, they have to
And
milk it.
they're milking the situation out of, I don't know, Macron and the wife. Was that a slap, you think? I'm asking.
Yeah, to me, it looks like he was really slapped heavy.
Like, wake up, bro.
I don't know. What
It was a push of the face. Not a
Okay,
Because-
why is he being pushed?
slap. Like any couple. Maybe he was
Boy
even.
child
maybe
needs to be defended, to be honest. But whatever it was a lovely couple. And it was a moment for
Bridget
the
needs to
lovely.
be restrained. She needs to be restrained. This
Someone
too
said
much.
she's over mothering this guy. That is it.
They met. Macron was 15 and she was near 40. Then
Can
she
you imagine?
proposed. I don't know. They got
But also
married.
some men need to be, let me also now be a little bit funny. Some men need to be aligned properly. Like if you, for example, you're going for short time because they were getting out of the plane rather. So there was media. So maybe you just need to just arrange his face, wake up, bro, you're sleeping.
You're
like,
sleeping? Like sleep, the cameras are on.
the camera, it's time to be short time, bro. Let's some men deserve some slaps. Just say
Ephraim Ramwenje is in the studios with us. Good morning, Ephraim.
How are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing fantastic. I love the phone. Looks so completely new.
Really? It's the same
it's
old
just
phone.
a cover, I
It's
think.
just a cover.
It's just a
This
cover.
But it's a
this is-
16 anyway. So
Is it?
yeah. Yeah,
Today-
the people who are living life.
Our conversation is on the subject matter. Why do Rwandan startups fear competition and copy each other instead? I think this sounds familiar if you're listening to us. Maybe it's not the first time you get to hear it because you've had people say, I began this and also my neighbor began to do the same thing. I began a restaurant, everyone began a restaurant. I went into starting steam sauna, everyone went into that business. Or I started to distribute this and everyone started to distribute the same thing. Or I opened up a boutique and everyone went to open up a boutique. I started a coffee shop, now everyone has a coffee shop. No one wants to invent their own thing. Everyone wants to do what somebody has tried. And I think there's a culture around here, right? Everyone wants to build the same solution. There is little innovation, no differentiation. I mean, when you look into our media space, for instance, look around. Everyone wants to do sports programs. Everyone wants to shout at Petty. Everyone wants to shout at Arsenal. No one wants to do something completely different. Everyone wants to do the same thing. Look at the television stations. We want to do the same thing. And then we don't see revenues coming in because no one has a differentiator. Question is the startup scene stuck in a comfort zone of duplication? I could mention so many products and services. From wine stores, I think when 2-3 open, now the entire Kisament is full of wine stores. Everyone is trying to sell wines. Everyone is trying to sell a beer. From restaurants, you find what's the population in Kisementi, for instance?
Do you know?
Okay, let's say
I
maybe
think I wouldn't know.
let's say maybe 2,000 people, and then of 2,000 people, you have 500 restaurants.
I feel like 2,000 is too
I think
low.
that's.
It's too low.
I think also 500
Just give that as
restaurants
an
are just
example.
on the highest.
Now it's possible.
in
possible?
Kisamente,
Yes.
500 restaurants.
It depends on what you consider Kisimenti.
I mean, it can take all the way starting from.
Don't forget Freedom counts as 3.
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
joking.
counts as a 3-star.
No, counts as 3 restaurants. I'm joking.
So on Living Entrepreneurship today, of course, always glad to have Ephraim here. Bold to have this conversation with us. And maybe let's face it. Why is this the situation, Ephraim?
I know, right?
I think so. When I think about duplication, competition, then you so you mentioned fear of competition, then you mentioned duplication. I don't know.
Everyone has
Julian,
become a car importer.
if Julian, if you see
Everyone
someone,
is importing hybrids.
Julian has started a business before. Julian, you've started a business before. Yes.
So, so I have a different thinking, but I have also two sides of the story here of my thoughts. One, first of all, there's nothing wrong with having the same business. For me, that's what I believe in. Even if it's in the same line, we all are restaurants in the same line, same area code. It doesn't matter. What matters is how you deliver your game. How are you? One of you has to beat the other at their game. That is it. It doesn't matter, and I don't have a problem with that. However, creativity. What happened to people being more creative and thinking out of the box? Not all of us can do. Also that stands. But also on the other side, Jesse, you've also realized, you say the same thing. People are doing the same thing. And also you've realized that when you bring something new in the market, does the market embrace it? Because by the look of the things, they want the same thing. Do you all have the sports program? If you don't have, you radio na agenda. It doesn't have a sports program. The market doesn't seem to want to embrace something new.
Recently, I spoke to a young lady who wanted to start out, and we were discussing what possible product or service could be brought to the market. She told me it's better to start with something no one has done before. But she also mentioned the problem is if you do not scale so quickly, people are going to pick up the idea and start doing the same thing.
Because someone is going to have more money than you. Your idea is very good, but because you have less capital, and someone is going to come beat you at that game very fast. That is it. That's how life is.
Well, we're not here to talk to ourselves. Let's hear.
No, I think no. Actually, I'm glad you guys are bringing this in because these are different perspectives. Juliana's brought in this aspect of, because you mentioned fear of competition. She's brought in, but the market, the market want a new thing. Do customers? At the end of the day, you are selling to customers. How receptive are customers to new ideas? If we go and we decide we're gonna have the only English radio station in Rwanda, is that what the market wants? It's a new idea. You've not copied anybody else, but is that what the market wants? And I think for me, when I looked at the topic, because there's also that aspect of duplication and competition, I don't think we necessarily fear competition. I just think that we normally pursue opportunities and end up duplicating because we're looking to make money. So this is what normally happens. Juliana will go start a boutique importing women's jewelry, as an example. First person to do it in Kigali. Then she starts to make. It takes her time, struggling to pay rent, make ends meet, convince clients. She starts to get good clients. After she gets those good clients, she starts to make money. Her own cousin will be talking in a restaurant with other people and say, "Hey, my cousin,
She's nailing it.
She has made a lot of money from.
she's making it." And any human being who hears someone is making money is like, "How? I also want to make." That's human nature.
Not trying to solve a problem, just trying to make the money.
I mean, at the end of the day, the problem is, what is the problem? The problem is already being solved by this person who's selling the jewelry.
So you want to help them to solve the problem.
So you're like, I may also want to also make money.
I
If
want
I
to
solve
be
a problem,
I want to
that
be part of the problem.
exactly. Now, here's an interesting thing. There is a school of thought that I think will tie all of this together. Talking about, for example, new customers, the issue of duplication, and the aspect of competition. It's something I've mentioned before on Living Entrepreneurship at the podcast called Blue Oceans. Now, Blue Oceans, again, I think for me, when you understand what Blue Oceans is, you actually understand how the world works. Now, before I get into Blue Oceans, I'm going to give you some statistics. Number one, what a lot of people think, if there are 10 players in a sector, and there's 100% market share. Isn't that the entire market, right? It's 100%. 10 players in the market. That you assume what? Every player goes home with 10%.
10%, yeah.
That's what you think. But here's the crazy thing. Normally, number one has 50-60% market share. Number two has 25, and then the rest are left to share 15. That's normally how it is. Now, some people say, but if you have many competitors in the market, innovation comes. We like in Rwanda, if we are not just looking to duplicate each other, we're looking for new ways to do things, we'll improve. Unfortunately, again, in sectors, like I said, where you have 100% market share and you go and compete with other people in that space, even if it's just in your locale. So like, for example, you have a boutique in Chichuchiro Kagaram in your quartier, and then somebody else brings another one. You guys are competing for the market share in that neighborhood. Now, again, that was statistic number one. When I'll come to two later, but when I look at Blue Ocean strategy, one of the things that I can tell you, and I'll explain what Blue Ocean strategy is. Blue Ocean strategy says, shift your focus away from Juliana and Ephraim as competitors and focus on the customer that you mentioned earlier, Juliana. Focus on what value are you creating for the customer. Because once you do that, regardless of what you do, you will succeed. Now, here's the second statistic. Do you think Apple was the first company to create a smartphone?
Absolutely no. There was Nokias of this world, the Samsungs and blah, 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 blah.
And BlackBerry. Do you think Facebook was the first social networking site?
We had High Five before Facebook.
Then there was also MySpace. And Friendster.
Yeah.
You people are too old. I don't know.
It's okay. You stop lying.
It's
You had
alright, we are too
profiles.
old.
I'm sure I can find
alright.
it. If I look for it,
Old
I'll
is
find
gold, bro.
Look
who is talking.
I know the grandpa. Him is too old. He doesn't know those things.
It's alright.
Yeah. So
Did you mention high five?
You see?
It's okay.
So you find you have these businesses that had these products before. They innovated these things before. But someone comes and is like, I can do it better than you. Now, why do I say that? I'm like, look, this ties everything together. One, when you focus on Blue Oceans doesn't necessarily say come up with new products that don't exist. Blue Oceans are like, find ways to create new value in old sectors or in old businesses for customers. What do I mean by that? When people created smartphones, somebody woke up and said, but this smartphone is very delicate. It might fall and break. So why don't we supply
Screen guards
and phone cases? So someone innovates, but around an existing thing. And I think that's what a lot of people in Rwanda, I've seen some guys do it. And I think maybe that's the direction we need to go. Is not necessarily come in and say, because someone has already created Vuba Vuba, it's done. Someone can come and say, what is Vuba Vuba's biggest drawback? And how can I create more value for the customer?
Exactly.
That is, and so what happens is that you're not trying to compete by creating a duplicate of Vuba Vuba. You're trying to create something that's better than Vuba Vuba. Not that I'm saying that somebody should or Vuba Vuba has any
Well,
issue.
they should.
I mean, that's your prerogative. Me, I'm a happy customer of Vuba Vuba.
We all are.
The food gets to
We're
you
all very happy.
cold.
The food gets to you cold.
I don't have a problem with Vuba Vuba.
Someone needs to innovate around that for the food to arrive warm.
It's not that.
Yes.
It's not the Vuba Vuba problem.
No, but
It's the packaging?
It
is.
could be the problem where you order the food from.
No, I'll give you a simple example. There's a pizza company that have arguably the best pizza in Kigali, and they deliver. When the pizza gets to you, it is hot. I'm telling you, the cheese is melting.
It goes back to what? To the people who actually cook this food and the packaging, because you know the particular bags they pack this.
That's what I was about to say. So now, who is the person responsible for that last mile logistics? But anyway, that's besides the point.
That's not. We're not going to discuss.
Yes,
it
that is
business.
not. Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that when you understand what Blue Oceans is, Blue Ocean says, so there's Blue Oceans and then there's Red Oceans, right?
Yeah.
When you hear blue, what do you normally think of, Juliana?
Blue ink.
Who hurt you? You don't even think of water. What nang? Or the sky?
Ocean.
You've already felt that exam. go blue ink.
Yeah.
You're signing contracts and checks. Jesse, when you think of blue, what do you hear?
The sky.
The sky.
Yeah.
So when you think of the sky, we know that the sky is expansive.
It's not limit even.
Yes, it's infinite. The sky is the sky. When you hear red, what do you think?
Danger.
Danger.
The radio and Moses failing to cross the ocean. Just saying.
The red flags.
Red flags. Red flags. Red. So red. When I think of red, I think of stop. Traffic lights. Now, interesting thing is, when they talk about red oceans, it's where companies are competing for the same market share.
But it's happening around a lot.
And then do you know what happens when you compete for market share? You have to reduce pricing. You have to offer customers more. So pretty much you have to offer customers more for less.
Yep.
And so if you were selling lunch and you're giving one piece of meat and selling it at 5K, then somebody comes next door and puts it at 4K and is giving 2 pieces of meat. What do? You give 3 pieces of meat and reduce the price as well. Simple Julian. Or I'm lying.
No, you're not.
That's the only way you can ensure that you stay in
either
business.
reduce the amount
Of
of money.
or increase the meat. But even increasing the meat won't guarantee you customers.
It's the money.
It's the money.
Just reduce like 500.
Yes.
Yes.
At least it's cheaper than the other person.
Slightly, even if it's 200.
But you have to also increase it from 1 meat to 2 meat. Yes, somehow. So pieces of meat. So for me, what normally happens is that they say in red oceans, that erodes profit. As a business, it kills you. It kills you when you have somebody fighting for the same market, for the same customers, for the same opportunities than you. So Blue Ocean says, because you're looking at things that are more expansive, tap into things that are unheard of, unexplored. They don't have to be entirely new, but they have to be something that it's a new approach to an old problem. What do I mean by that? There are sometimes when you realize at a restaurant, somebody just wants food. Or let me take this thing of ordering food. You've ordered food. Some people think it's about the packaging. So they have to give you food expensive in nice packaging. You just want hot food that's very delicious. That comes on time. So what Blue Ocean says is that how can you remove those unnecessary things that you think are value for the customer but are just driving up the cost? Like in this case, fancy packaging. Fancy packaging makes your food 20% more expensive.
That just reminded me of one of the supermarkets around here where you actually go and they tell you to buy the envelope. It's honestly, it's very annoying. Well, you go to other supermarkets, the envelope is something that you are offered because it's packaging, yeah? But there's one supermarket, they tell you, Shirawijan. And I'm like, do you know what it means? My 200.
Do you know that Asian how much they buy the packaging at?
What are you offering to a client?
That's the thing. And I think you hear that, and that particular business with time will find themselves being disrupted by somebody who is actually finds a more innovative way to go about it.
But it's very simple. Instead of asking your customers to pay
put
for
it in
an
your
envelope,
system.
Just add 2 francs on top of whatever they are buying.
Exactly.
Increase a bit of the prices. Some people will not even notice. And
But
then
it's painful
let
than
them
telling
just
me
walk.
to pay that 200 for the envelope instead of just finding a way how to fix it in one of your things, right? So I don't feel that pitch because I'm typical African. I'm sure there's so many people who are like me out there.
Yeah.
For
The time
me,
is running too fast. Some people say fear of failure drives this copy-paste culture. You talk about blue oceans, and when I look at Rwanda, I'm not seeing the ocean.
It's there.
I'm not seeing the blue ocean.
You don't see it. You
I
only see
actually
red.
see it for
You
me.
see it, eh?
I don't see the blue ocean.
I mean, why
because-
did you go create? So there's radio.
Yeah.
Why is there an English speaking radio? And why is the content?
Okay,
why is the content in the morning
reason I'm
show?
saying-
The morning show, we're not talking about celebrities and celebrity gossip. We're
We
talking
do.
about business.
We actually do. What I wanted to bring forward is it's there, but not really there. When you widen the lenses, it's there, but the scale at which you would see it, you'd see mostly the red.
Okay.
That people are doing the same thing, copy paste Kanaka. I mean, you go around the streets where you see people saying the same things, I think, from the same factories, and they have brought, because Kanaka has made some money out of this, I will also go and make money out of the same thing. Now, some people say it's the fear of failure which drives the copy paste culture. To some people say it is the lack of imagination or something deeper in our entrepreneurship DNA. When I go to the beaches, okay, I don't know if there are beaches really, but to the water sides of the water sides, at least within the territory, Mohazi, and I see places or facilities or properties that you would think someone should have greater imagination and drive Kigalians to have fun in this side of the town. Yet we have still failed. But I can tell you that we have same concepts, similar concepts, cluttered in Kigali. And they come, they fail, they close, come, fail, close, and we move on to another new joint. Yet Rwanda is wide.
I think, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what, Jesse, so for you to be able, I think people are creative. The only challenge is that fear you're talking about. For you to be able to not to fail is to actually, I don't know how I can put this, but someone is scared to start something because it's going to fail. Because there's no sustainability.
That's what I was about
Because
to
they've not seen someone succeed at doing
so,
that.
So what you need to understand, you mentioned something about entrepreneurship DNA. And I think one of the things that we are slowly learning as Rwandans, as a country, is risk-taking. And I think maybe a couple years ago.
But also what is going to work for you won't work for me as well. It's not a guarantee that when we do the
no,
same
you know,
businesses.
so I was telling this actually, funny enough, to my significant other yesterday evening.
Oh God, guys, my significant other.
And I was telling her about
Nice.
the madness of entrepreneurs. For her, she knows, but I think I was just telling her something that I heard that really encapsulates everything. It was actually Jeff Bezos who said it. He said, to really win big, you have to go against conventional wisdom. But here's the catch. 99% of the time, conventional wisdom is right. So it's a gamble. And I think once you understand that, entrepreneurs have to be a tad bit nuts, mad, crazy. Because whatever you decide you're going to pursue, you're committing not just your money to, but you're also committing your life. Because any business to see success is going to take you between 2 to 5 years. So you're committing 2 to 5 years of your life to test and see if this thing's going to work out. And I think that's why what has happened with, you talked of a comfort zone, and it's the truth. What happens is that you make a bit of money and you're like, you know what, this is enough. Not enough like, oh, I've made all the money in the world, but you're like, let me not shake the table too much because I'm making good money from this. And unfortunately, you cannot expect to grow. And I'll use international examples because those are the ones that I understand, but you can see it in many businesses locally. I told you the story of Blockbuster and Netflix. So Netflix originally was not streaming. I don't know if you know that. Netflix used to be order mail DVD business. So you could get your DVDs through the mail. So they had innovated. But they realized that the internet was innovating at such a high rate that they were like, we cannot stay in this business. Yeah. So, they were making money from the DVDs and they were hammering Blockbuster. But they were like, still, we need to disrupt ourselves. So what I'm trying to say is that, unfortunately, we haven't reached a point in our development journey enough for us to be comfortable with some of the risk it takes to do what you're saying. But I feel like we're getting there. You see guys, there's some particular guy I saw yesterday. In one mall, he has 3 shops selling the same products, strategically positioned. So he has ensured that the entire market share for that particular product he's selling goes in that area, goes to him. And what he does is he's not fixated on profit per transaction. So if he can even sell you one of his products at a loss. If he bought it, let's say, 5K, he can even sell it to you at 4K because he knows If I tell if I give this person, because of where I'm located and the products I have, this person is gonna bring someone to me, and I'm gonna make 30K profit off of that referral. So he's like, this one I can give a discount. They've even come back to me. So he plays a long game with his approach, and it has worked for him. So for me, what I'm trying to say is that in our development journey, we are still at the beginning of it, but you can see a lot of people are starting to embrace that mentality of, let's take a gamble, let's take a risk, let's try to do something that's new. Again, I mentioned Apple was not the first company to design a smartphone. Facebook was not the first social networking site. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to go start something completely fresh. Just take something somebody else has tried to start and figure out how to do it better than them.
Exactly.
Last question, because of time. You've said before, I think, on this program, competition is healthy, and we all know we agree. But in a small market like Rwanda, do you think startups are avoiding the competition or just playing it too safe to survive? To just go with what you just said. You don't have to start something completely new. So play it safe and survive.
What I'm saying is far from playing it safe, because what you're doing is playing it safe is do it as other people have done it, tried and tested methodology. You're like, if
step a notch higher.
Yes,
just play the same game,
but a different way.
Yeah.
It could be with your pricing structures. It could be with the way you go
delivery.
about your product packaging. It could be your delivery. It could be things that people haven't thought of that are you've just talked about heat seal vacuum packaging as an example for food that gets delivered. How can one innovate on that? What I'm just trying to say is that you have to step in. It's not safe based on that. I think what happens with safety is, I'm going to do it as everybody else does it. But here's the catch or the irony of it. That's actually the least safe. It's the same as saying a job is safe, but a job is the least safe, because you can wake up tomorrow and you're not in control of what your boss decides to do, and he fires you. So when people say entrepreneurship,
I think safe is not good.
Yeah,
safe.
Nothing good happens in safe zones. Safe zones are safe zones. The interesting stuff happens where there's
chaos.
Yes. And I'm not saying chaos for chaos' sake. It's not you who drives the chaos. Don't be chaotic and think that's okay. But if you can go into an environment where there's chaos, there's always an opportunity.
Ephraim Ramwenge here on the show. We've been trying to look at why Rwandans and startups fear competition and copy each other instead. And the question has been, is the startup scene stuck in a comfort zone of duplication? This to be continued here on Kigali in the Morning News is up next.